Howard Stern Show.
Did you read this article in the New York Times? I thought it was compelling about that the NFL could be the next tobacco companies. With the amount of head injuries and the amount of guys suffering dementia, I mean, you got 50-year-old guys who come out of the NFL. They're fucked up for life. That the sport is basically a bunch of gladiators. We're all a bunch of devils sitting there watching these guys. The owners are like the grand poobahs, and they send the men off into battle, and they come back all broken up.
It's Rome.
Do you think that the NFL could be the next tobacco situation where, in fact, there's so many rules and regulations that have to be instituted that it actually dies, that it actually has to be restructured?
I can't see that.
You can't?
No, I can't. And by the way, it may be wrong, but these guys are going out there. They're gladiators for $10 million a year. You make your pact if you're a player. And now it's going to be a little different now with mothers and grandparents raising children and saying, we don't want you to play football. But for the most part, kids have loved to play football.
Right.
They become good enough to play in the National Football League. This is what they've chosen to do. Nobody has put a gun to their head and said you have to play football. And they get compensated very well for it. And then in their later life, yes, I've known a ton of players, some of whom have no ill effects. Others, we know what's happened to them. But they're able to, and a lot of them are able to trade on the fact that they've played for years to get jobs in companies, because people still love to go back and say, oh, I remember this guy when I was a kid, and maybe I'll give him a job with my company. So there's a trade-off here, as there is in all of life. I mean, if you work for a power company and you're up on high transmission lines working in cherry pickers and all that stuff, you're not getting paid anything like this, and you're going to pay a little bit of a price down the line too. They're paying a price. I just think look, to me, Howard, the NFL is doing about as much as it can right now to try to make sure that things are better equipment, better protection.
Well, you make a point. A coal miner goes down there for almost no pay, and he knows he's going to get black lung disease.
And this is what they've chosen to do. And if you're a coal miner, sometimes you don't have a choice. Maybe that's the only job you can have in which you can support your family. If you want to play professional football, that is a choice.
Do you support the idea of college football players unionizing and getting paid? I support this down the line. I think it's despicable. I think these universities are making tremendous revenue from television. I don't understand what the difference is. They're athletes. They're being televised. They're entertainers.
And some of these kids, this is their moment.
And let's stop the ruse
going on.
that they're getting a free education. Yeah. I mean, big deal. I mean, it's pennies,
No, there should be compensation. There's no question.
You agree?
A kid, I'm not sure about unionization. The issue one of the problems you have is if you pay the football players, what do you do with the lacrosse players? What do you do with the swimmers?
The Title IX. There is a Title IX that says...
Who plays a shitty sport like that?
Right. You say you're going to play that?
Right.
Sure.
But Howard, it does say that everybody has to be treated the same.
Yes, it does, but we have to change that immediately.
The Howard Stern Show.